Hey everyone, Kirby fan here. Real quick before we start the video today, first of all, just wanted to say thank you so much for the support of Kirby Month. It's been great. You can keep the support up by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I've been making them into little gags at the start of each video, and I'm going to keep doing that. Just decided not to make it a gag for this one because I wanted to say, from this point forward, these are where I start to really, really love these games. They become among my all-time favorites, and I will be gushing. You have that warning now. With that said, let's get on with today's game, which is... Wow, it has been quite a while since I ranted about Extra Epic Yarn, huh? For me, at least. I recorded that video months ago. As a refresher, I'm not a fan of that game, but I said something along the lines of enough of the charm of the original was still in that version. And now you finally get to understand what I meant by that. First of all, I'm not going to wait to talk about the visuals. We're knocking that way out of the park first. This game looks so good. After playing Extra Epic Yarn for a while and going back to this version, it's crazy how much of a downgrade that game was. The yarn in that game is implied at best, but here I feel like I can reach out and touch the screen, feel the yarn, the cotton, the fabric. It's such a nice art style with a really strong identity that no other game has really captured since, even the re-release. I guess the Yarn Yoshi games kinda captured something similar, but I don't know, I still think Epic Yarn has a stronger sense of style. But what's so great about Epic Yarn's visuals is that it isn't just the yarn and such that makes it look so good. This is kind of difficult to put into words, but the imagination is what makes this game look as good as it does. Hey, quick question. You guys know what snow is, right? How about instead of it just being really cold water, they're cotton balls? And you can roll up the cotton balls into other cotton balls to make that bigger, kind of like a snowball. Or, hey, you know how in every other Kirby game, when you go underwater, Kirby puts on that scuba gear? Well, in this game, he just turns into a submarine. Hey, what if an entire world in this game was modeled after treats? What does treats even mean, you ask? Well, how about toys, snacks, bouncing? It's just so delightful. If I had to voice any kind of complaint here, and this is only in comparison to other Kirby games, which is a very high bar, trust me, is that because the game goes all out in its cuteness and charm, there's nothing particularly spooky in this game. I just talked about Kirby 64 not too long ago, and while I prefer Epic Yarn overall, that game's visuals stuck out to me a lot more. Epic Yarn is certainly the better looking game, I won't argue against that. But Kirby 64 had things like dark matter and the corruption of Ripple Star. It had the implications of Earth freezing over, the planet being taken over by robots, machines, factories. It had eerie music tracks with incredible atmosphere. Yes, a large portion of the game was cute and nice like Epic Yarn, but it had contrast. Epic Yarn has the Scarfies, I guess? I guess Crackle looks kind of creepy, maybe, but that's kind of it. And while we're talking about the negatives, actually, Kirby not being able to inhale has always rubbed me the wrong way. When I first found out the reasoning behind his inability to have abilities, I wondered how he would ever eat. And then in a cutscene in the game, we see Kirby eating. So wait, if he can eat food, can't he eat enemies? This sounds like a major nitpick, and I mean, it is. But if they're going to try to justify removing the copy ability, one of the most prominent, best mechanics of the entire franchise in the game proper, it better be a perfect reason. This just kind of feels half-baked to me. The story itself, thankfully, oozes charm throughout the whole thing. The narrator reading out the story like he's reading a bedtime story to a young child is precious enough, but the delivery on every line could not have been any better. I can imagine a child lying in bed, reacting to everything this man is saying and staying engaged throughout the whole thing. It's so cute. Of course, I gotta put the franchise's integrity before young children and say that I hate day-to-day in this game. This was the last game to make him a laughingstock before Return to Dreamland, and I guess Mass Attack, came out and gave the character real meaning again, and for sure, this version of him hurts the most. He can't hold his own against Waddle Dees. This guy is king for what reason again? Alright, enough negativity. This is Epic Yarn. Let's talk positive and gush about the soundtrack. The music in this game is, and I know I've used this adjective a dozen times already, absolutely delightful. There's no better way to describe it. It's just so nice. The best tracks in this game, bar none, are the piano solos that just sound so cute. The game is adorable, and while the visuals drive that point home, I will legitimately argue that the music is the cutest thing about the game. Bonus points to the music for not only being cute, though, because, unlike the visuals, there's good variety here all around, with some tracks that are kind of even ominous and intense. My favorite singular track is Versus Mennonite, the Superstar remix, and that's one of the best in the whole series, for sure. As far as the gameplay goes, I'm sure some of you are expecting me to tear it apart for being too slow, but honestly, I don't really mind it here. If anything, and this is going to sound really strange, but I'm glad the game is a little slower. I want to soak in this game's environments. I want to take my time and appreciate all of the moving parts that make this game look so good. As it does. This isn't an action-oriented Kirby game. This one is almost entirely exploration-based. And while I gave Kirby 64 a lot of flack for that, I don't think it's quite as bad in Epic Yarn. A lot of that has to do with the atmosphere, of course, but exploring in this game just feels a lot better overall. Kirby's base moveset lends itself a lot better to moving around, especially since the dash in this game actually means something. The things you find by exploring beyond beads and such are either tracks for the sound test or furniture for Kirby's pad. While Kirby's pad was never a feature I cared about, finding music tracks, 100% super worth it. And finally, let's talk about the beads. Finish the level with enough beads, and you get a gold medal. You can get silver, bronze, and, if you're really down on your luck, absolutely nothing. Gold medals don't get you much of anything beyond 100%, but I've always enjoyed clearing levels with enough beads to get the gold. It can get pretty hard because the punishment for getting hit and falling into bottomless pits isn't dying, but instead losing beads. Epic Yarn was really ahead of its time in this regard. Games nowadays are ditching the live system for other forms of punishment, and while Epic Yarn got bashed for it when it came out, people are much more forgiving of the system nowadays. And I, for the record, really love this system. There's a whole lot of intrinsic value in this game, unlike many other games, even some other Kirby games. You get the gold medals because you want to get better. You want to clear the game. You want to show this easy baby game that it is not too hard for you to clear. There are some other things about Epic Yarn that I'm not crazy about. I think Spaceland is too slow overall, and I don't like it. 100%ing it is a pain because of the side objectives with the other apartment residents. And while this isn't a complaint, I certainly prefer the more action-heavy Kirby games to this style. All that said, the game is a gem. I absolutely love it. This is one of those games I'd play if I'm ever in a bad mood because its charm will just cheer me right up. And I can even play it with a friend because it's got really good co-op too. I know I said this at the start of the video, but just to reiterate, this is where the games start getting really, really good. I know it's only number 15, but I adore Epic Yarn. And one last thing before we wrap up the video. Epic Yarn, not an isekai. I have a video going into detail as to why this myth is fake.